Hello everyone and welcome to STOked episode 43, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what you might expect. In fact, we're going to come right out here at the beginning and strip away all expectations.
Well, okay, hold on. Kind of think of it like this. You know those episodes of Star Trek where they would film the entire episode, the whole storyline would take place on the ship?
Sometimes even just in a single room.
Yeah, like 10 forward or something.
Yeah,
And they internally would call that ship in a bottle. The idea being they sort of would save up their budget for that episode to spend it on a bigger episode next week.
That's exactly what we're doing.
That's
Next
right.
week's episode is going to be very special. We're going to be doing another live gameplay event, so you can watch our Facebook page for scheduling on
You
that.
can play
and
with
join
us while we're doing the show.
In addition to that, we're going to have a very special math segment that's going to require some extra prep time.
Yep, and then a whole new sort of experimental upgrade to your mail segment. It's a whole new idea we're going to
Let's tell them about that at the end.
We'll save it for you.
Yeah, because we do have a new question for you as well at the end of this episode.
Okay. Well, before we get into the live respec, let's talk a little bit of Tribble news.
So Ship Interiors just landed on Tribble yesterday, and we did get a chance to play with them.
Yep.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, they're slick. They're featured, actually, a couple of them are in segments 1 right now, and then in segment 3 later in this episode will also be from a ship interior. But we're going to kind of leave it at that.
One little tidbit I did want to mention is that you remember in the Ship Tailor, there's that layout design thing that says small, medium, large.
Right.
A lot of people have been thinking that that was going to be the actual
Size of the hallway.
architecture, the actual rooms, and well, it's not. It's just your layout sizes.
Yeah.
And I think that you said last night, anybody that doesn't choose huge is just
Unless
you're a fool.
Yeah, because you get if you choose small, you get less rooms and less corridors to run around in. If you choose large, you get extra rooms and extra corridors with extra curvy corridors. But I would think maybe somebody might choose small if A, they want to try to stick to the feel of like a Defiant sized ship.
Yeah, that's a good
and then
point.
B, also if they want a shorter trip when they want to get somewhere.
Yeah, they don't.
Oh, and props, sliding doors.
Oh yeah, totally.
They
We also
rock.
saw some early trophy graphics, but they're not quite implemented correctly. Anyway, you guys go check out the interior.
All right, so let's move on to...
This news segment is going to be very stall heavy.
Yeah, and we just got to be honest. We're just going to have a new segment. It's going to be called...
Daniel Stahl says stuff. Update.
So we just...
That is ridiculous.
This rest of this news is really just that. It's stuff that Daniel Stahl said in the
I guess he's
forum.
really earning his place, though, as
I
the
guess
mouthpiece
so.
of STO. Though.
He's working.
Uh-huh.
So, okay, what did he say this week?
Well, the first big thing that I think everybody's had their eye on is we did have a new engineering report. It's got a complete update with everything that's going to be landing in Season 2, confirmed features, so
Okay.
you can go check that out if you're wondering whether or not this is going to be coming soon or coming later. The rest of it is not really anything we hadn't seen before. We already knew most of those features were coming.
Right.
Except, listed under the heading of Season 3+, it just says Secret Project.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, myself included, think that this is early indications of user-generated content. And one of the main things that leads people to think that, including myself, is that both Stahl and Code Ranger have been all over the forums recently talking about what might be included in user-generated content or how to avoid the pitfalls and perils of things like the Architect system.
Yeah, and both of those guys in the forums have seemed to given special interest in the user-generated content concept. And maybe that's what they're talking about in that Season 3 surprise thing. Then again, could be Cation baby kittens. We don't know.
We don't know.
So.
It's completely secret.
Yeah. Who knows, but it's fun to
Man, now I
speculate.
want a kitten.
Anything else that Daniel Stahl said that we want to cover?
Yeah, he also said that he's fighting for
Oh, yeah.
C-store equality. Now, we'll send you the exact link because that's kind of a simplification
Yeah,
of what
head
he
over
said.
to the show notes over at Jupiter Broadcasting.
It's a pretty long
for that.
quote. Basically, in a nutshell, he's looking to try to find ways in-game that you might be able to earn some of the prizes that you can get on the C-store that might be seen as
the stuff
inequalities.
The stuff you can buy in the C-store that might give you a leg up.
Yeah.
So the idea would be that make it somehow possible to get that same stuff through the game. Boy, that'd have to be pretty hard stuff in the game they'd have to introduce.
Well, if you think about it, it's already, the Galaxy X's equality is already in the game, sorta. Now, this is still a sticking point on the whole Galaxy X topic, but you know, it's currently available through the C-Store or through the Refer a Friend, and it's slightly, some could consider it more powerful than the other Tier 5 ships. But the other equivalents to that, including the Refit Galaxy, the Refit Defiant, and the Refit Intrepid, are not going to be available until Season 2.
Right.
So this is one of those inequalities that he's said that he will be looking to address in the future.
I don't know. I mean, that's a nice thing to say, but I think there's just a lot of pressure there for that C-Store to pay for itself.
Well,
and I don't think it's likely that they're gonna. And if they do have to give on that, it's gonna have to be pretty epic kind of gameplay to get it. I'm sure.
Probably. The other thing I want to point out is that the C-Store is cryptic. It's not just STO.
Right.
And Stahl is only in charge of STO, of Star Trek Online. So there's a good chance that he doesn't have 100% of the say or veto on what ends up in the C-Store.
I think there's a very good chance of that.
It's almost 100% probable, I believe. He doesn't run cryptic. There are other people, including Atari, that have more of a say probably in what ends up on that C-Store. So try as he might to fight for something, that's no guarantee that we will get what he's asking for either. So we still just have to kind of wait and see.
Yep.
I do honestly think, though, it's good to see the dude in charge of the whole thing kind of coming at it from the same angle that the players are.
Yeah. That is nice. Or at least he understands.
Now, this one is probably, calling it news might be a little bit of a stretch. But you know, a lot of people, including us, have been talking about the concept of, with the C-Store, STO going to a free-to-play model.
Right, yeah.
And Stahl actually came out and addressed some of this in a recent post. He basically said that he's interested in the idea of free-to-play as what he was calling it was more of a robust demo mode.
Yeah.
Where
you could kind of get in and get an early sense of the game.
And the core mechanics of the game are free to play, but basically most of the content you would have to either subscribe to be able to access or pay for like adventure packs and stuff like that. More or less what Dungeons & Dragons Online does right now, which is a model that has worked for them, reportedly. So
if you read the forum, there's not a lot there. But we'll link to it in the show notes, and you can see where they talk about. He even mentions comparing it to the other games and their models.
The reason that I find it interesting is just because of the fact that he came out and didn't sound dismissive about it, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about.
So that's always
he's
helpful.
done his research.
Or somebody did for him. We're on to you. All right, well, let's go into the live respec. All right, everyone, welcome to the live respec segment. Something new we're trying. We're doing a live respec of my character. I've actually been saving my respec forever. I've been saving my very first. No, this will be my respec cherry, if you will. I've been saving it for the show.
Popped live on the internet.
We're doing it live right now. We're streaming this segment live, and we've got people in the chat room, so they'll be helping us as we go along.
Well, you know, we kind of did a respec segment on a previous math episode, but I didn't feel like it turned out all that well for one main reason. It was basically a one-sided conversation, just me yelling at you guys saying, do it this way, this is the right way, and I don't think that really pays off.
Whoa.
Not for everybody.
Quit being so angry.
So I'll basically walk Chris through this, and hopefully you guys will kind of pick some stuff up along the way.
Yeah.
I was like this when we first started the game, and I can tell you were because of the way that your spec was previously set up. But it was basically like, I just want to rank up, and you just spend it on whatever you felt was good at that time,
at that moment.
But now that you know more about the game and you know more about the abilities that you like to use, when you go back through this respec process,
it's kind of refreshing in a way.
It is more.
I'm looking forward to it. And you know what it is, too? It's because when I've been playing, it's been that little skill up button up there pulsing. And I will sit there and see that while I'm in combat, and it will bug me, and I will wait till I'm out. The instant I'm out of combat, I will click it and just spend it on something and hit OK to
just
close
to get it off your screen.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was like that at the beginning. And it wasn't until I actually got down and dug through the skill system that I started to understand just what that meant to my overall performance. I think you're going to be really happy when we finish speccing you out.
Nice.
Just like you said earlier, I mean, it is possible to obtain more respecs. So it's never going to be a fact where you're just locked into always having this character always have these skills.
Yeah, because there's respecs that are granted to you, and there's other means to purchase respecs too if you were crazy like that.
If you need to.
So is this all the skills I'll ever have? That's sad.
Even with Vice Admiral, they haven't added another tier yet.
So do you just keep getting, at level cap, do you just keep getting more skill points, or does it stop paying out eventually?
At the level cap, it's capped. You don't earn anything more. Anything that would have been.
Do you have 9s across the board?
No.
That's dumb.
There's a maximum amount of skill points that you can earn.
Why can't you keep getting skill points to go back and 9 out across the board?
Because then the difference between a Rear Admiral that just hit Rear Admiral and a Rear Admiral that's been Rear Admiral for 2 months would be way too out of balance. You couldn't balance PvP for that. You would have to have different tiers based on time.
Word. That's true. Yeah. That would make PvP tough. Good thing PvP is so critical to everybody's gameplay.
Everybody. it would take 400 more points to get a +2 here, or it can take 300 to get a +4 here. Obviously, this is the way to go.
Yeah.
And up until there. Now, at this point, it's going to cost 300 points to get a +2. Now it goes back and swings in favor of this. We pump that up instead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit, you got to be a little mathy on the fly here.
Yeah, you do have to do a little fly math, yeah.
I don't know the exact math behind it, but some of these efficiency skills are supposed to give you additional energy in space.
I could use more energy.
It seems like it's not enough to really focus on that. Through the skills that you invest in,
Right.
you just happen to end up with more energy. I think that's just a plus
Yeah, absolutely.
to go along
Yeah.
with it. I don't think that we should work towards that.
Shouldn't try to game it so that we get that little extra bonus.
Right.
That makes sense.
And it is a very small bonus.
I could probably get more of that from Pet and Tribble. What's up? Shh, go away. Not now, we're doing Stoked. Yeah, JB Viewer 6 in the chat room says it's a bonus under 50 power setting.
Well, and even then, I mean, when you're, let's say you do set your energy at 25, isn't the bonus like 2 or something? So your
is
base is 27 instead of 25?
Weak sauce.
It is weak. It's very weak. Another thing that's happened since you originally started playing is they introduced some of these like attack vectors, Starship Command.
Yep.
Now, I did notice that you went back and spent points in these, but you also spread out your points. I know because earlier on you wanted to be able to fly any ship you want.
Yeah,
'cause you're
yeah.
such a ship geek.
Yeah.
And you wanted to be able to fly them well. Now that they've introduced these new skills, you don't necessarily have to invest in your primary ship. You can actually get buffs that will affect any ship that you fly. So you don't have to necessarily pin yourself down to always flying an escort or a cruiser or a science ship. If you invest your skills wisely, now investing further in the individual types of ships can improve things. Like now, if we spend your points right, we can actually improve your turning rate slightly.
Okay.
Not only by using this Starship combat maneuvers, but by investing specifically in cruisers. But if you notice, I'm stopping at 7.
Yeah, I did notice that.
The reason for this is diminishing returns. When you get up to this rank, you see the next one only adds a half a point.
Yeah, it's really kind of starts to just slow down.
Whereas they all cost the same for each one of these. If
Save your money or your points in this case.
you get a bigger bang by investing in a different skill. You're not necessarily going to be the pinnacle of the science team leader. You know, there are going to be people out there with an extra +1 above you.
Right.
But how much does that +1 really matter? And anything you put in after this is, I don't want to call it a waste, but it's just so small that
Right.
it's probably not going to be noticeable down the line. Also, when we get to that, the diminishing returns are calculated differently, and you get more bang for your skill points spent on the higher rank of skills. 4 points or 4 ranks in energy weapons is worse than having 4 ranks in, let's say, phaser weapons. You can see that right here. Whoops. Oh, and yeah, somebody just pointed out in the chat room this could go to 7. That's true. It's basically 5 and 7 are the...
Oh, okay.
Unless you're going to go all the way to 9, stop at 5 or 7. Don't go to 6 or 8. It's just the bonuses aren't as good there.
It's good to know.
Honestly, space is more important to both of us, to most of us.
Absolutely.
Especially since you're not high enough level to be doing special task forces yet.
Right.
So you don't really need to be all that heavily specialized at this point.
And I could always re-spec or something down the road.
You could.
It's kind of a sad state that I'm able to play the game to Admiral without that being in there.
It does say a little bit about the game, don't you think? I mean, you've spent no time invested in any.
It was a conscious decision, though, but it just makes me wonder, what the hell is that about?
I'm going to go a little lighter on the first round of points this time around because you don't have quite as many. In the captain skills, these cost 400 per rank. So you're getting less bang for your buck than you were in third rank. Third rank is actually, the skills in the third rank actually give you the most bonus for the least amount of costs.
Oh.
I think I'm going to recommend this one go all the way to 9. This is primarily for the damage resistance. Because as a cruiser captain, with all these survivability skills that you have now, you're pretty much turning yourself into a tank.
Yeah, I am a kind of, aren't I?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So let's beef this up so that your resistance is as high as it can get. Look at all these dancing fleeties.
I know. Look at, they're just ripping back their Cations. They're going. That one Cation back there.
Got an air guitar remote.
Oh my.
There's
God.
2 of them.
Oh my God.
You guys are crazy.
What kind of space maneuver would I do where I would care about my crit severity?
Like if you were given the choice between a torpedo that had a +10 crit rating or a +10 accuracy, which one do you think you'd
10
be more
crit
likely?
probably, because not everything has to be accurate.
And let's be honest, you like big numbers.
Yeah, I like if I get a crit while I'm doing all that, that's just more of the epic.
Yeah.
Con42 in the chat room says, what does accuracy accolade improve?
Actually improve.
Actually improve.
Your chance to hit the enemy. Some people have actually said that accuracy is always the way to go, because it doesn't matter how hard you can hit somebody
If you're not hitting them.
if you're not hitting them.
But you are hitting them.
I think it's kind of ends up sort of a wash, probably. I haven't done the fine detail math on that front. Maybe I should. I think it ends up pretty much 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, you know, in the long run.
Yeah. Mac before is in the chat room. He says, before you can be critical, you got to hit him first.
Yep. Before you can crit, first you must hit.
So here's what Pyromancer says, going back to the accuracy thing. He says, actually, it's not true. Accuracy will always win out. If you hit for 200 damage and then hit 50% of the time, compared to someone who hits for only 133 damage, but hits 75% of the time, you're going to do more damage overall if you're more accurate. I'm feeling good about Plasma. The guys in the chat room have me kind of second guessing it, but I think based on our discussion,
Well, again, I think that that's primarily a PvP consideration.
Yeah, and based on my discussion, I'm planning. Now their argument is build for PvP and you'll own in the NPC space. But if you
that's actually a pretty good argument.
Except for the, like you were saying, if you count on the fact that most NPC ships don't heal, then plasma burning could do more damage than that percent of a debuff.
Disruptor is more of a more regular debuff.
Yeah,
that will,
more guaranteed.
Yeah, that will work on both NPCs and PCs. You had mentioned that you might be using a mix of beam weapons and cannon weapons.
I kind of would like to. Is that just totally crazy?
It means that you might have to split your skill points.
I know.
Which means each would.
I don't have to. I mean,
your turn rate's not that great on the Galaxy,
so I'm not turning so often.
There's going to be fewer times where you can actually bring that full firepower to bear.
Let's not give it to the cannon. Let's just go all. Let's go all to regular phaser arrays.
I'm going to probably recommend that you either go full photons or quantums. We're being told in the chat room that quantums are better on a cruiser.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Why exactly would you say that?
Why are quantums better on a cruiser?
I think one of the reasons that you'd want them on a cruiser is because you can't usually get them in your sights as frequently as a photon recharges. So it's like the quantums give you a higher bang for when they actually land in your sights.
I'll get quantum.
Eject Warp Plasma, which you probably won't use all that much.
No, how come?
It's better on ships with high maneuverability, and you're going to be using a cruiser. And it's not going to be easy to eject that in people's faces. Do you use boarding party?
Yeah.
Do you think that you might replace that?
Oh yeah, I might. Boarding parties to me always seems kind of.
This is also a unique skill. It's not affected by anything.
Oh.
Now, do you use mines at all, or are you purely a torpedo build?
I'm never a mine user.
Okay. Well, that makes that decision very easy.
Oh, good. I wonder if the chat room is anybody in there a big fan of mines? They just never really made a lot of sense to me.
The one time I can see mines being really beneficial, I think that they might be really good on an escort, where you can fly right up to somebody, and as you're cannoning them, if they don't die from that right away,
as you go past,
you can poop out your mines as you veer off.
Plop, 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 plop.
But if you're trying to keep your distance from the enemy,
PvP, I can see mines being good in PvP too.
It could be, especially against escorts actually, because they tend to do that strafing run. If they're getting right in on you, then mines could be a good defensive maneuver against that.
We didn't put anything in the deflector dish. Or
you don't have any skills that use either of those.
I do use the S out of the tractor beam, though.
You don't have any tractor beam skills anymore.
No!
Because you changed ships.
Right.
You have fewer science consoles.
I know, it sucks.
Okay, everyone, it's time for the question. This week, we're doing something a little different.
What we want is for you to send us some scripts, and we're going to do a visualization of those.
Kerpow, it's going to be slick. Here's what we're looking for. Something that's like a 3 to 5 act sequence. You know, a typical Star Trek episode with an epic tale that you can conjure up where you'll go down maybe to a planet, beam up to a ship, something like that. It doesn't have to be that.
It doesn't have to be on space and ground. It could be all ship interiors. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do for you guys, though. I'm going to set the bar right here.
All right.
I'm going to give you an example, and then that will give you guys an idea of what the kind of thing that we're looking for.
Lay it on us, J-Man.
Okay, so here's the mission. You warp in. Let's say you were told by Starfleet that there was a distress beacon. So you warp into the system. The distress beacon turns out to be coming from the planet's surface. So the first map, of course, is nothing. I'm not even going to count that. You just warp in and then you go to the planet.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, guys.
So you beam down to the surface, and as soon as you land, you get a note from your ship saying, "Captain, we've been boarded."
Oh, so you're on the planet.
Yeah.
And your ship's up in space, and they just got boarded.
Yeah.
That's bad.
So suddenly, communication is silenced. Your science officer comes up and says, "Captain, we've lost contact with the USS Your Ship."
Crap.
However, I do detect some dilithium traces off 3 clicks to this direction or something like that. It turns out that there's a spaceport. And so you have to fight your way to it, fight off, let's say, Klingons.
Sure. Yeah.
Why not Klingons?
Yeah.
So you have to fight your way through a few groups of Klingons to get to this spaceport. You get there and find out they have a bird of prey right there.
What?
On the planet.
Just
They've
chilling?
been waiting for you.
Oh. So
That's how they got to the
ship,
planet.
don't you got to get that ship to go get your ship.
You board the bird of prey, take out their captain, and then fly it into space.
So
when
now
you
we're
get
a
back
little
into
voyage
space,
home action here, or search for Spock action.
When you get back into space, you are now flying a bird of prey,
That's
and you
cool.
have to disable your own ship.
Oh, that'd be cool. And then board your own ship?
Yeah.
Oh, well, bam, J-Man. That's awesome. All right, that does set the bar pretty high, folks. If you think you can match that, or maybe you want to give an attempt, shoot it over to STOked@JupiterBroadcasting.com.
And keep in mind that next week we're going to be doing a live gameplay.
Yeah, Saturday.
You guys can join us on next Saturday. Yeah, probably.
Hopefully.
Check our Facebook page, facebook.com/JupiterBroadcasting. We will be posting updates on our time and date and all the plans for that live gameplay. So join us.
Awesome. I hope you guys do that. And these episodes of Stoked come out every Tuesday over at JupiterBroadcasting.com, so you can always catch the new episodes then. And until next week, see you then.